Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into something that literally touches almost every professional out there, the rapidly escalating world of modern workplace ethics. And look, I know what you might be thinking, but this is way more than just some dusty corporate rulebook. It's a living, breathing landscape. We're talking about a spectrum where the stakes start at everyday, kind of harmless-seeming office annoyances and ramp all the way up to staggering, multi-million, and even multi-billion-dollar crimes. So let's jump right in and see exactly how everyday choices can snowball into massive consequences. To give you a quick roadmap for today, we're going to start by navigating the gray areas of workplace behavior, and then lay down the foundational values of business ethics. After that, we'll look at the human cost of misconduct and bullying before things escalate to the cutthroat ethics of corporate competition. Finally, we'll look at the shocking scale of global fraud and wrap up with how we can actually resolve these complex ethical challenges moving forward. Section 1. Navigating the gray areas. Where does misconduct actually begin? So I want to introduce you to Julius. Julius is a charismatic senior accountant. He gets his work done, but, he loves to keep up with the latest trends. In fact, he spends about 15 minutes out of every hour at his desk just swiping through TikTok. Now, you really have to ask yourself, is scrolling TikTok at work just a bad habit, or is it an actual ethical issue? It might seem completely innocent, right? But let's reframe this for a second. Time theft impacts about 75% of businesses in the US, and it costs companies hundreds of billions of dollars every single year. So when Julius uses a full 25% of his paid working hours on social media, he's actually contributing to a massive systemic problem. This is exactly where that gray area starts to solidify into real measurable harm. Now, it's absolutely crucial to make a clear distinction between two concepts we actually mix up all the time. On one hand, we have an ethical issue. This is a situation, like Julius scrolling on his phone, that simply requires you to evaluate it as either right or wrong. Pretty straightforward. But on the other hand, we have an ethical dilemma. And this is much tougher. A dilemma is a situation where all your available choices have negative outcomes. There's literally no perfect right answer, just a less harmful one. Recognizing the difference between an issue you can easily solve and a dilemma you just have to navigate, well, that instantly establishes the stakes for any business decision. Section 2. The foundational values, the big three. Before we can really navigate these dilemmas or judge these issues, we need an anchor, and here they are, the big three. This is the core framework for basically all ethical business decisions. First up is integrity. This means being whole and sound, demonstrating an uncompromising adherence to a set of values. Basically, you don't just deviate because it's convenient for you. Second is honesty. This means telling the truth to the best of your knowledge without hiding anything. It's really the glue that holds all business relationships together. And third is fairness, which is all about being just, equitable, and impartial. This deals with equality, the fair distribution of resources, and reciprocity. If an organization lacks even one of these three, ethical failures are pretty much inevitable. But hey, not everyone agrees it's that simple. Just consider this pretty provocative argument from Eric Beveridge-Lewis. He suggests that if business is a competitive game, kind of like basketball or boxing, then ordinary ethical rules just don't apply. I mean, think about it. In boxing, the entire goal is to physically strike your opponent. If you applied the golden rule there, the sport literally wouldn't exist. This philosophical argument really pushes us to question whether business is truly just a cutthroat game that's totally exempt from everyday morality. But as our sources point out, because everyday people rely on business to survive, we can't just excuse it from the basic rules of honesty and fairness. It's not a game we can just choose to walk away from. Section 3. Workplace misconduct and bullying, the human cost. So when those foundational values are ignored, the human cost is incredibly high. And a really crucial point here is that bullying isn't always physical. It includes spreading rumors, deliberately blocking communication, maybe flaunting your status to take advantage of someone, or sending really demeaning emails. These are super subtle but totally insidious tactics used to assert power over people. Get this, approximately 72% of bullies in the workplace actually outrank their victims. This creates a deeply hostile work environment that totally destroys productivity, and it causes severe psychological damage, sleep disturbances, and depression. It's a massive ethical failure that actively harms real people. And man, these blurred lines in the office can escalate so quickly. Let's bring back our friend Julius. In our case study, Julius actually developed a crush on his subordinate, Samantha.
After a few drinks at a post-project celebration, a coworker egged him on to kiss her on the cheek for a TikTok video. Samantha pulled away. She was uncomfortable, but honestly, she was too afraid for her job to speak up. Now, here's exactly why that is such a huge problem. On one side, we have dual relationships, which are personal relationships that cause professional conflicts of interest. Julius already crossed that line by pursuing his trainee. But on the other side, we have Title VII sexual harassment, which is unwanted conduct that literally alters the conditions of employment. Because Julius is her superior, his unwanted physical advance created a hostile environment. He took a blurred boundary and transformed it into a massive legal and ethical hazard for the firm.
Section 4. The ethics of competition, intelligence or espionage. All right, now we're escalating the tension from interpersonal office dynamics into the cutthroat corporate world. Here's a question for you. Is it market research or is it corporate espionage? See, it's perfectly legal to collect corporate intelligence by analyzing public filings, looking at press releases, or just monitoring a competitor's social media. But where exactly does the line get crossed? How do corporations go from just gathering intelligence to flat-out stealing secrets? Well, corporate espionage costs the world economy an estimated $600 billion every single year. And the methods these hackers and spies use are just staggering. It's not all high-tech system hacking either. We have things like shoulder surfing, where someone literally just looks over an employee's shoulder at a coffee shop to steal a password. Or dumpster diving, where rivals actually dig through a company's physical trash to find organizational charts and trade secrets. This is the really gritty underground economy of competitive advantage, where a simple lack of security can turn into a devastating financial loss. And the ethics of international competition? They get even murkier. Take facilitation payments. These are small payments made to induce public officials to perform routine functions, like issuing standard permits. Now, in some situations under U.S. law, these actually aren't considered illegal bribes. But bribery? That is offering money specifically to gain an illicit or unfair advantage. The line there is razor thin. For example, Ralph Lauren employees gave Argentine customs officials dresses, perfume, and cash just to accelerate their merchandise passing into the country. They claimed it was just how business was done down there. But regulators definitely saw it differently. That quote-unquote facilitation absolutely crossed the line into bribery, and it resulted in a $1.6 million settlement.
Section 5. Fraud and financial misconduct. The billion-dollar lies.
We are talking about the truly massive lies here. $5 trillion. Take a second to really let that number sink in. That is the estimated annual cost of global fraud to organizations. That's $5 trillion completely siphoned out of the global economy through intentional, deceptive practices that are meant to manipulate and conceal facts just for personal or corporate gain. Now, you might think it's advanced IT controls or super rigorous external audits that are catching all these bad guys. But actually, a staggering 43% of frauds are caught simply by tips. Yep, you heard that right. That means whistleblowers, everyday employees who see something wrong and actually speak up, are by far the most effective defense we have against corporate financial misconduct. It truly underscores why fostering a culture of honesty is, well, financially critical for any business. But hey, fraud isn't just about cooking the books in the accounting department. It happens in marketing too. We really need to distinguish between puffery and implied falsity. Puffery is just exaggeration, like saying your brand sells the best TV ever. No reasonable buyer takes that as scientific fact. Implied falsity, on the other hand, is when a message is literally true, but it actively misleads you. Consider this case study of Daniel, an ad copywriter. He was tasked with creating a commercial for a product called Uber Bacon, using a famous celebrity, Gloria Cooney. The catch? Gloria is a strict vegetarian whose high cholesterol from eating meat led her to quit entirely. But the ad agency told Daniel to spin it. She used to eat bacon, so technically she can endorse it, right? That is the perfect essence of implied falsity, using a literal truth, the fact that she ate it in the past, to intentionally mislead consumers into thinking a vegetarian actively endorses a meat product today. And you know, it's not just evil corporations committing fraud either. Everyday consumers do it too, to the tune of billions of dollars. Take chargeback fraud. That's where a customer gets a completely legitimate item but then calls their credit card company and claims it never arrived. Then there's showrooming. That's taking up a physical store's time and resources to test out a product, only to just buy it cheaper online. And then there's wardrobing. This is when an influencer buys an expensive dress, wears it for an Instagram photo, and then returns it for a full refund.
This kind of consumer fraud costs the retail industry over $18 billion a year in fraudulent merchandise returns alone. So yeah, ethics is very much a two-way street.
Section 6. Resolving ethical challenges. The path forward. So, how do we actually find the path forward in such a complex landscape? Well, take the real-world example of Airbus. They faced a nearly $4 billion settlement with global fraud agencies over illicit payments made to secure airline contracts. It was a massive headline-making bribery scandal that cost top leadership their jobs. But here is the big takeaway. To survive and recover from that, Airbus didn't just write a check and pay a fine. They completely overhauled their entire internal structure. They implemented a rigorous new ethics and compliance system that was specifically designed to catch misconduct at the earliest stages. And they even agreed to external monitoring. It just goes to show that true recovery requires a systemic, deep-rooted commitment to transparency.
And this is right where we leave off today. We're entering this wild era of predictive analytics, artificial intelligence, and unprecedented global crises. AI is suddenly allowing systems to make autonomous decisions, and the traditional rulebook? Well, it just hasn't been written for this stuff yet. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. When the rulebook hasn't been written, how will your foundational values, your integrity, your honesty, and your fairness guide you through the massive disruptions of tomorrow? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and remember to keep asking those tough questions.